Hello, my name is Andrew Phillips, and this is a video about A History of the World in 6 Glasses, written by Tom Standage. You may say, why would I care about 6 glasses of history? What does that even mean? Well, those 6 glasses stand for Coca-Cola, wine, spirits, tea, coffee, and beer. Those 6 drinks are everything. Everything. Absolutely everything. And that could not be summed up any better than in the first sentence of this book. The author just had to start with, thirst is deadlier than hunger. Like, if that doesn't do something for you, then I don't know what will. If you've come here for facts, then you're in the right place. First fact. This is going to change your life forever. Around 1510, when coffee was first introduced into the Arab world in places like Mecca and Cairo, if that's how you say it, coffee became controversial as whether it could be embraced as a legal alternative to alcohol for Muslims. After all, consuming alcohol wasn't allowed for Muslims. Or be considered prohibited like alcohol because of its physical effects, being the ability to focus and stay awake longer. For a short time, only a few months, coffee was actually banned in Mecca. I bet you didn't know that, did you? Did you? Did you? Let's talk about beer. Beer is one of the oldest beverages in the world, so it makes sense that the exact date of when it was invented, or more discovered, is unknown. This is also because writing wasn't invented when beer was first discovered, which almost certainly wasn't before 10,000 BCE. The oldest written documents date from 3400 BCE, and they were small clay tablets, and they contained the symbol for beer, which was one of the most common symbols, along with grain and bread. The symbol for beer looks like a jar on its side with diagonal linear markings inside it, as seen here. Did you know that in early pictograms from 2000 to 4000 BCE, bread is usually shown as being drunk from a large pottery jar by 2 or more people using straws? This pictogram from a seal found at Tepe Gawah in Mesopotamia dates to around 4000 BCE. Even after this way of drinking beer wasn't necessary, it was still depicted this way, which suggests it was some sort of ritual. You see this right here? This is a broken watch. What does a watch have to do with literally anything? Well, the first letter of watch is W, and the first letter of wine is W. So, that's a great segue, if I do say so myself. Wine, similar to beer, was discovered in ancient times, most likely during the Neolithic period, which was 9000 to 4000 BCE in the Zagros Mountains, which roughly corresponds to modern Armenia and northern Iran. The earliest physical evidence of wine was a pottery jar containing a reddish residue, found in Haji Firuz Tepe in the Zagros Mountains and dates to around 5400 BCE. Now, I'll make you a deal, right here and right now. If you already knew this fact that I'm about to tell you, then I will give you this 1940 San Francisco minted penny with a street value of approximately 2 to 3 cents. I'm putting it all on the line here, folks.
In ancient times, wine was very important to the Greeks, who often had drinking parties called symposion, which was an all-male aristocratic ritual that would take place in a special room. This room would consist of walls decorated with drinking-related murals or paraphernalia, and would sometimes be the only stone-floored room in the house, and it sloped down toward the center to make cleaning easier. Women were not allowed to participate, but they were often servers, dancers, and musicians that entertained and served the guests. Wine was always watered down to 2 to 1, 5 to 2, 3 to 1, or 4 to 1 parts water to wine. Drinking wine that wasn't first watered down was considered barbaric by the Greeks.
Have you heard of Plato? No, not Pluto, Plato. He was a famous Athenian philosopher, and he saw wine as a way to test oneself. Plato also made rules for properly running a symposium, which should ideally enable men to develop resistance to their irrational urges and triumph over their inner demons. Yes. At Roman dinners, different wine was served to different guests based on their social status. For example, fine wine was served to the host and his friends, second-rate wine to other guests, and third-rate wine to freedmen, or former slaves. See this right here? This is a broken top to a most likely a rum or spirit-related alcohol bottle. And that goes on to our next topic, spirits. In the 16th and 17th century, spirits like brandy and rum in a way facilitated the slave trade. Europeans would trade brandy and textiles to African traders for slaves. Spirits began being used instead of wine because of the higher alcohol content in spirits over wine. Spirits also didn't spoil as quickly as wine did during transit. The Europeans would present large amounts of alcohol to African traders before beginning negotiations. Canoemen who ferried goods between European ships would be paid in brandy, along with the guards who marched slaves from holding pens on the coast down to the shore, who were also paid in brandy.
In 1655, the British Royal Navy's drink rations changed from beer to rum. In the 18th century, Admiral Edward Vernon issued an order that rum should be mixed with 2 pints of water. Vernon also had the idea of adding sugar and lime juice to the mixture to make it more palatable. This primitive cocktail became known as grog, which was named after Vernon because his nickname was Old Grog Ham. Partially unknown was also how much grog played a huge role in establishing British supremacy at sea. This came from the dramatic reduction of scurvy-related deaths by British crew due to the lime juice present in grog.
And for those USA fans out there, here's a fact relating to the U.S. In 1791, the Secretary of the United States Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, proposed a law that required whiskey distillers to pay either an annual levy or an excise duty of at least 7 cents on each gallon of liquor produced. That was passed in March and came into effect June 1st. This tax was meant to help relieve national debt that had occurred from the Revolutionary War. This tax even applied to whiskey produced for private consumption. Many were not happy about these taxes, and revenue collectors were even attacked. In Pennsylvania, armed groups called the Whiskey Boys were created that strongly opposed this law and even tried to establish a new independent state. George Washington ordered 13,000 militiamen to confront the Whiskey Boys, which actually succeeded in solving the problem without much violence. The suppression of the Whiskey Rebellion forcefully demonstrated that federal law could not be ignored and became a defining moment in the early history of the United States.
In the 1650s, coffee houses became very popular in London and became centers of political debate and intrigue, as well as respectable places in which to meet and do business. Now this next fact is very topical, as it has been something that has very recently been studied in the humanities class. Tea played a huge role in society and economy in ancient China, especially during the Tang Empire. Oh, I know you recognize that one. During this time, tea was much safer to drink, easier to prepare, and did not spoil, unlike beer. Tea merchants, who were required to handle large amounts of money, pioneered the use of paper money. Tea bricks were also used as currency. Tea first reached Europe from China in 1610 when a Dutch ship brought the first small commercial consignment of tea to Europe. Tea had spread to France by the 1630s and England by the 1650s. Tea did not become truly widespread in England until the 18th century because of how expensive it was. This was when the India Company established trading posts in China, which began direct imports of tea, so volumes increased and prices fell. Tea was both drunk by the rich and the poor, which is somewhat unique. When Coca-Cola, it's not a Coca-Cola bottle cap, but it could have been, that's what matters. was first introduced in 1886 by John Pemberton. A small amount of coca extract was included in it, which meant the drink had a small amount of cocaine. This was later taken out in the early 20th century. I'm sorry it took so long. Thanks for watching.